Dorian Duvall, aka Mirror Gazer, is a singer-songwriter, DJ, and producer originally from Portland, Oregon. He now resides in Brooklyn, New York, where he blends multiple genres like new wave, psych rock, surf, and ambient to create a dope new sound, which can be heard on his record, Ordeal Erasure. Let's go talk to him now. I've always been curious about the creative process. I mean, what's that cosmic itch that absolutely must be scratched? And maybe even more than that, once they've started on that creative journey, what's the thing that helps someone take a project from the beginning to the finish? In this series, I'll be talking to industry professionals about their process, and I'll be asking them questions like, what's the best place to start? The best kind of equipment to use? What exactly does that button do? My name is Watson, and this is Making Noise. Dorian, thanks for joining us today. Appreciate you taking the time.
Yeah, definitely.
So let's start at the beginning. Let's love to know where you're from.
Oh, okay. I'm from Cleveland, Ohio. I grew up in a town called Shaker Heights, and I also lived in Portland, Oregon. And then I moved to Portland, Oregon. I moved to New York, 2013, and I've been here ever since.
Well, what brought you out here?
So I have family out here. My brother lives out here. So I feel like I kind of ran my course in Portland.
Yeah.
I lived there for about 8 years, and throughout my life, I've came to visit my brother in New York, and I don't know, why does anyone move to New York?
Yeah.
Just to find opportunity, experience one of the biggest cities, greatest cities in the world, and I was just hoping to just experience something new.
Yeah. Well, were you playing music the whole time, from Cleveland to Portland to?
Yeah, when I was in Cleveland, I feel like I was more active as a musician when I moved to Portland. But yeah, I started playing music in Cleveland. I started with a guitar. When I was 15, my parents bought it for my birthday. But I did have a guitar before that, but I didn't really take it as seriously because it was an acoustic guitar. It was like a really shitty toy guitar.
Yeah.
And and I just, for whatever reason, I didn't like it.
Yeah.
And ended up breaking it.
You broke it?
Yeah, I broke it. I just broke it. Yeah. But because I really wanted an electric guitar.
Yeah.
And my parents at the time didn't think I was going to be serious about it.
Gotcha.
But they caved in and got me a guitar when I was 15, an electric guitar, and I just never put it down. I was playing guitar all day, every day.
So what drew you to the guitar in the first place? What made you want to learn how to play music?
So my mom and my grandmother played in choir, and my grandmother played the piano. So every Sunday, I would have to go to church and sit in the very front row, and behind my grandmother as she played. And I don't know. At that point in time, I was more into singing, and I don't know the specific moment when I wanted to play guitar. I think it was just something I had always wanted to do.
Yeah.
And I just convinced my parents, to really give me a guitar.
Yeah. So what were some of the early bands or artists that you liked back in those days?
The guitar, I definitely was drawn to by Hendrix. I remember my sister let me borrow the album Are You Experienced? And then just hip hop stuff, my sister also let me borrow Wu-Tang and the Beastie Boys, and I don't know, had a moment with Cypress Hill and just anything that was on MTV, I gravitated towards in some way or another, and I was inspired by it.
So you've obviously been singing and pretended to be a rock star for a while.
Yeah.
And really into music.
Mm-hmm.
At what point did you decide, let me figure out how to actually write music, original stuff for myself?
I guess I was always kind of writing my own lyrics.
Yeah.
I had notebooks full of lyrics. I used to write lyrics when I was in 5th grade. When I was really young, I would have another song melody in my head and just write my own lyrics to it. But yeah, as soon as I got my first guitar, I was just writing my own songs and just messing around.
Oh, that's interesting. So you've been writing all the...
Yeah. I feel like it's just kind of always been something I did naturally.
Yeah.
It's writing songs. But I wasn't as As far as recording goes, though, that was, I used to take this old, like, the CD players with the karaoke function.
Yeah.
So I used to dub tapes like that, and I would record some music and then dub it over, and then sing on it, and then like dub it back over. So I had a bunch of tapes like that, and then I didn't get my first multi-track recorder until I was like around like 18, and I was like using the computer. It's like I don't even remember what program it was. It might have been like Audacity or some shit. I can't remember it, but
you found something and you figured out how to.
And just like like multi-track, and I wasn't really into mixing very much. It was just more like if I could record tracks on top of the tracks and just make a song.
Yeah.
And then just playing music with friends, and
just to kind of come up with an idea and see if you could make it.
Totally.
So you're primarily self-taught? Have you taken any lessons at all?
Yeah, I took some lessons like when I first started playing, and I think that was very short-lived. It was like 6 months or something, and then I just went on my own and just taught myself. I would just go online, find tabs, and I just play like every day, hours on end, and just over time, you just kind of like hit new peaks, new plateaus.
When did you start, like you're a multi-instrumentalist, you play a lot of different instruments, yeah? So when did you start to pick up the other instruments?
I mean, I guess like to keep like synth, that was like around like the same time that I bought my first sampler.
Okay, round about when is this?
When I was like 20, something like that. Yeah, so I don't even, what were they, like 2008 or 9. Yeah, like I bought a Roland SP404, so that was the first sampler I ever had. And then I bought the synth, the Novation X Station. That was around the same time. And then I had like a micro Korg, and I had like a tape machine, and
So at this time, once you got this equipment, you essentially have enough for a home studio, a bedroom studio. So you're able to write and record your own songs, right?
Yeah.
So what kind of software were you using at this time? Right?
So I wasn't even using a software in the beginning. I was just like recording their tape cassettes and stuff.
Oh, right on.
Yeah, and then I was like, like the first album that I was gonna do, I was like, I'm gonna record this shit on a tape cassette. And then it just wasn't like the fidelity of it wasn't really the way that I wanted it to be.
Yeah.
Actually, one of the songs that's on the album, the first one, the song Ice Palace, was recorded on 4-track tape cassette.
Oh, right on.
And then I put that out I don't know how like a year before I actually recorded the whole album. And I got help from a buddy of mine, and we went to this studio. It's like this lawyer had this like amazing studio in the basement of his house, and he had like all this crazy vintage gear. So that was a huge opportunity. So I took all my tracks and recorded like 2-inch tape, and then we just like recorded a bunch of stuff like overdubs, and he mixed it down, and that album actually like presented a lot of opportunities where I got to go on tour.
This was the first album.
That was the first album, yeah.
This is on You.
On You, yeah.
I know.
So I got like to go on like a bunch of like national tours, which was really cool.
That's what's up.
So that definitely, that was an amazing experience. And then it kind of like instilled like it kind of made me like feel like, oh yeah, man, this is what I should be doing,
Yeah, it felt
something like that happens, you're like, oh, okay, maybe I should just try to like keep making music.
Yeah.
And take it seriously.
Were you signed at that time?
So I had like there was a funny story behind that. I was working at a bar, and I played a show, and my boss was really good friends with this guy named Lee Cohen, and he was the manager of the band Dandy Warhols.
Oh yeah.
You know them? And he saw me play a show, and I was doing a solo thing. I had like drum machine and synth, and he liked the show and told my boss, he was like, yo, you should like help this guy make a record. And long story short, he helped me, like he connected me with the guy that helped me record my first record, and then he had like a label that was inactive. So he was like, well, I'll just put it out. I'll just like reactivate my label and put it out. And then like I guess the album got picked up by a PR company and a booking agent, and I got to go on tour. Like, I didn't really think anything was gonna happen. I was just like, okay, well, like, let's make this record, man. And then
That's amazing.
all of a sudden,
Let's talk about that a little bit. So I imagine that kind of experience, going from playing local shows in Portland to going on tour
yeah.
with all these major acts, you've learned a thing or two about being on stage and about performing and about presenting your music in that way. Is that the case? Did you feel like, how did your performance change as you went on tour?
I mean, honestly, I feel like it was pretty much the same.
And
like,
you're performing on your own, like
yeah,
with,
well,
again,
I,
with the
like
samplers.
the first couple few tours, I played with like one other person. It was just me and my other buddy. And the last one I did solo. But yeah, it didn't really change. I mean, I think just the size of the shows changed.
Okay.
And then, you know, and whenever I could, I would get a whole band. But yeah, it was just hard to do on tour because I just was so, I had never done it before.
You would never.
So I was just like, I just want to do it alone.
Oh, okay. I see.
Yeah.
You hadn't performed with people in that way before.
Yeah, and I was just kind of like a perplexing experience, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
Just to be like.
It's a lot.
Yeah, and it all happened within like, I put the record out and then I was going on a national tour like in a month.
Wow, it was that fast?
Yeah, and then I went on another one like 2 weeks later, and I was like never played. It was just like so just trying to figure out like all the financing and the organization. And it was really fun, but it was also kind of stressful at the same time.
Yeah, I can imagine. So without, you can get as specific as you like, but what is that process like of, what does it look like on the side of, between you and the label, when you've decided, you put out this record and you both decide you want to make a full-length project? What are sort of some of the expectations? How do you decide what you're doing, you know, an EP versus a full length? You know, how do those conversations go?
So at first it was gonna be an EP, and then there was enough songs. There's enough songs to make it a full length. And I was going back and forth. I was like, I don't want it to be a full length, I want it to be EP. And, you know, eventually by the end, there was enough tracks for it to be a full length album. But yeah, it was intentionally, it was supposed to be, initially it was supposed to be an EP.
That was what you negotiated with?
That's what, yeah.
That's
I was
what
like, this one's gonna be, and then it just turned into an album.
Oh, I see.
And they kept telling me, they're like, let's just do an album. And I was just like, I don't know if I can finish an album. and then I just like finished a couple more tracks. Cause I would send them and I'd be like, all right, this is the last one, man. And he'd be like, we need like 2 more. And I was like, oh, fuck, man. And I'd be like, really, you gotta do this? But you know, in retrospect, I'm glad, you know, he pushed me to like keep recording and make a whole project.
And you did most of the mixing yourself?
Yeah, I mixed the whole album other than one track, and I was on my way.
So what is mixing like? Like what, I guess if you wouldn't mind just sort of explaining mixing, what does that mean?
So it's just like getting all the tracks balanced into a cohesive sound, where everything, you can hear everything, and it's not, you know, all the frequencies, you know, aren't getting in the way of each other. Yeah. And you know, everything has its own like particular place within the song, and yeah, you know, just that's what it is.
Now, my understanding is a lot of artists, they prefer to have someone else mix it, maybe because they're too close to the project. They listen to it all over and over and over again. How do you get around that? Do you find you're okay to, all right, song's finished, I can start mixing, or do you like to step away from it first? And then
I almost kind of mix as I go.
Okay.
And then, which may be a bad habit, you know, I've heard that's a bad habit, but I don't know.
I mean, it sounds good to me, you know.
Yeah, I mean, like, it's just like my process, because I'm always like, as I'm recording and picking sounds, I'll be like mixing them at the same time, and then, but yeah, by the time everything is recorded, you know, you have to like remix it again and like, you know. Yeah. But yeah, I just wanted to mix this album just as a personal challenge. And who knows, maybe the next one, somebody else will mix it. Yeah. But I like mixing, because it's like part of the producing to me.
Do you have, as we kind of wind down here, do you have maybe just one lesson that you've learned about creating a whole album from start to finish that you think you can impart to someone else who's looking to do a full project on
you know, just never, you know, just don't stop until you finish it, pretty much. Because I mean, there's definitely moments where you're like, oh man, I don't know, like, where this is going, and you know, like, like, what's the point, or like, you know, I'm stuck. And then, you know, and when you have those creative blocks, it's just always best to just keep writing and going. And, you know, and don't always think about music. What helped me is like watching a movie or like reading a book or something, you know, definitely helped me with my creative blocks. And so yeah, but I would just say, you know, just keep going. Just don't stop until the album's done.
Dope. I appreciate it, man. Thank you.
Yeah, definitely.
And that's today's show. I'd like to thank Dorian for joining us today. If you like what you heard and want to check out more of Dorian's music, please look at the links in the description box below. Also, if you haven't already, please like and subscribe. My name is Watson, and this is Making Noise. Peace.